Okay, so these are your 6-2 notes. Your objectives are right there at the top. And also something I've done differently this time is as you go through your notes, at the end of each kind of title, it'll tell you which of those objectives that example addresses. So hopefully that will help you kind of tie things together when you're doing your homework and other things like that. So for your vocab, bi-weekly, we're talking about pay period. You're talking about getting paid and when you get paid and how much you get paid, salary or per hour, all of those type of things. So when they talk about bi-weekly, they're talking about when you actually get paid. And if it's bi-weekly, you get paid every 2 weeks. Sorry, doesn't want to go where it needs to. So every 2 weeks. If you're getting paid every 2 weeks, remember there's 52 weeks in a year. So if you're paid every 2, right? So you're paid and you skip, and then you're paid and then you're skipped. It means you're half of the 52 weeks you're paid. So you're paid 26 times in a year. So I'm going to say 26 times annually. If I can spell annually right. Alright. The next one is semi-monthly. So bi-weekly is every 2 weeks. Semi-monthly is 2 times a month. I can write that out. 2 times a month. So maybe you're paid on the 1st and the 15th. Alright, so do you agree there are 24 months in a year? If you're paid twice in each 1 month, gives you 2 times 24. So that means you're paid 24 times annually. Right? And annually, remember, means every year. Time and a half is referring to overtime pay. Right? When you're working more than what's in your contract or more than 40 hours. So time and a half is honestly just what it says, what it sounds like. If you're paid $10 an hour, first of all, good job getting that job in high school. If you're paid $10 an hour, after your 40 hours, you're going to be paid $15. You're going to be paid the normal time, $10, then half of that again. Half of 10 is 5. So 10 plus 5 would get you 15. So when you're trying to figure this out, it's 1.5, right, 1.5, times, you multiply it, your regular pay. That's how you would figure that out. Just like it says, it's time and a half. Alright, I'm going to get rid of those. We'll go down to the next couple of chunks of vocab. Just like half-time pay was pretty much just what it sounded like, double-time pay is going to be the same idea. So if you're doing double-time pay, it's 2 times, your regular pay. So back to that $10 an hour example, if you're paid $10 an hour, after your 40 hours you'll be paid $20 an hour. 2 times 10 will get you the $20. Gross pay. This is your, you could call it your salary. It's your paycheck. Before deductions. So before taxes, before all of those things, before deductions. I used to remember it's gross pay, like disgusting, gross. When I was in high school, it always grossed me out to see what I could be taking home before taxes and all of those things. But anyway, minimum wage is legally the least amount they can pay you per hour, right? In Maine right now it's $7.50 an hour. I'm sure you guys know that, being high school kids. Right, you're usually the people that are paid that. Alright, that's all we did for vocab. I cut down a lot on the vocab, trying to make it a little bit more streamlined for you guys. Hopefully that helps. Alright, there's a lot of examples here. So I'm going to get started. Alright, your first one goes back to your first objective, where you're trying to compute salary. So here they're asking, Christina's paid bi-weekly. So remember up above, bi-weekly means 2 times a week. Every 2 weeks. Her annual salary is $37,000. So yearly she gets $37,000. What is her bi-weekly salary rounded to the nearest cent? So if we're gonna do bi-weekly, that's every 2 weeks. That means that she gets paid 26 times. And I got that 26 because there's 52 weeks in a year. She's only paid every 2, so I need to divide the 52 by 2, or cut it in half, and I'll get 26. So there's 26 times she's paid, and she's paid yearly $37,000. So I need to take the total she's paid in a year and divide it by the number of times she's paid. So divide it by 26. If you do that math out, you are going to get $1,423 and then 8 cents. And I rounded that to the nearest cent. Need to put a money symbol there. That's how much he's going to get paid every 2 weeks. Sam earns $600 bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks he gets $600. Compute his annual salary. So yearly. And bi-weekly, again, means he's going to be paid 26 times in a year. So for 26 pay periods, he gets $600. So I'm going to multiply those two things together. And if you're thinking about this, do you agree his annual salary should be more than what he gets per paycheck? So we need to multiply and make this number larger, since I don't have any decimals here. So 26 times 600 gets you $15,600. So that's his annual salary. So he's bringing home a year. Okay. Your next one is going to do the same thing as the same example, only it's going to do it algebraically. So if Carlos earns X dollars bi-weekly, that is what the 600 was in the example above. Express his annual salary algebraically. So again, bi-weekly he's paid 26 times. Each of those times he gets X dollars. So 26 pay periods, each one he gets X dollars. I just need to multiply those together. That is your answer. That's how much he's going to make in a year. Do you agree this could be used anytime you wanted to figure out any person's annual salary that's paid bi-weekly? Right? You take the 26 and multiply by what they get every paycheck. That's what the X represents. Alright, this is the same objective, it's just kind of addressed a little differently. Manny's paid semi-monthly. So remember that means 2 times a month, 12 months, twice a month, so he's paid 24 times a year. His semi-monthly salary is $1,239. What's his annual salary? Annual, remember, means year salary. So 24 payments of that, so I need to do 24 times 1,239. Right, 24 payments, each one is the 1,239. If you do that out, you're going to get $29,736. Oops, sorry, that was $736. And I got 0 cents on that when I multiplied, right? Neither of those have any decimals. That's what Manny is making per year. Down here it says Maria is paid an annual salary of $35,000, so it's like they're going backwards. Up here they wanted the annual salary and gave you his paycheck. Here they're giving you the salary and want the paycheck. If up here you multiplied, down here you're going to do the opposite because you're looking for the opposite information. You're going to divide. So again, semi-monthly means 24 paychecks, right? Twice a month. How much is each paycheck? So I need to take the $35,000, how much she gets total, And I need to divide it by 24. That's how many times she'll be paid. If you do that, you're going to get $1,458. And I rounded to the nearest cent, so in 33 cents. That's what her paycheck will be. Semi-monthly. Twice a month she'll get that. Okay, so the next one is going to be asking you to do the same thing, right, where we did that division. Do the same thing, only with some variables. Do it algebraically. So again, it says Alex is paid semi-monthly, and his annual salary is Y dollars. So if it's semi-monthly, 24 pay periods, we don't know his salary this time. So if we're going to do what he's going to get every paycheck, or his semi-monthly salary, we're going to do how much he's going to be paid altogether, which is the Y, and we're going to divide it by 24. That's one way to represent your answer. Another kind of cleaner way would be, as much as you hate it, to set it up as a fraction. I will accept either one of these answers. Example 3, that goes back to the same objective. Maureen works at a local Chicken King restaurant. Her regular wage is $9.70. If she works 40 hours a week, what's her regular weekly pay? So if it's $9.70 for every 1 hour, and Maureen works 40 of them, I'm just going to simply multiply those numbers together. If you multiply those numbers together, you're going to get weekly pay of $388. And no cents. And that's your paycheck. We're going kind of quickly, but I think a lot of this you guys could figure out pretty quickly, independently, without me even here. So, Renee works 40 hours a week at a rate of $10.25 an hour. So just like up here, only a different hourly wage. What's changed here is they're asking for her annual salary. Up here we did what she makes in a week. Down here is what she makes in a year. So first, if it was me, I would figure out what she makes per week. I would do those same steps. So I'm going to go $10.25, how much she makes for 1 hour, times 40 hours per week, right? So every week she is making $410. Okay. Since they want annually, if this is weekly, you have to figure out how many weeks are in a year. There's 52. I think I told you that at the beginning of these notes. So that means that she makes $410 at each of the 52 weeks in a year. So if I multiply those two numbers together, I get $21,320. And again, the next one will be doing it algebraically. Same steps as what we just did. Alright. So, algebraically, Roger regularly works 8 hours a week at a rate of $D an hour. Okay, so every week, that means he is earning $D for an hour, and he works H hours. So I'm going to go H times D. That's what he makes in a week. Okay, so let's write that up here. This is a week. That's not variable, that's a reminder to me. This is my answer for how much he makes in a week. Again, they want annual salary. So there's 52 weeks in a year. That's what he makes in a week. That's your answer. Well done. It's really not pretty, I'm sorry. Alright, your next one is finally moving on to objective 2. Maureen usually is paid $9.70 an hour, but decides to work overtime. She receives an hourly rate of 1.5 times her regular hourly rate. What is Maureen's hourly overtime rate? Okay, so she normally gets $9.70. And for overtime, she gets time and a half. So that means I need to multiply that by 1.5 or 1.5. If I multiply 970 by 1.5, if I can find it, you get 14.55. So Maureen will earn $14.55 for every hour she works over her regularly scheduled, usually 40 hours per week. Okay? Do the next one. Sorry. Alright. So it says Janice earns $10 an hour, right? So the $9.70. Her regular hours are 40 a week, and she receives time and a half. Find her total pay for a week and work. She works 45 hours. So 40 of those 45 hours are going to be regular pay, right? The $10. So 40 times 10 will get me 400. So for regular time, she gets $400. Then she's got these 5 extra hours where she's going to get time and a half. So to figure out what she gets for each of those hours, I need to take her regular pay and multiply it by 1.5, 1.5, time and a half. That's going to get me $15. So for every overtime hour, she earns $15. She's worked 45, that means she has 5 overtime hours. And for each one of those, she makes $15. So she gets $75 in overtime pay. Now I need to take the overtime and the regular pay and add them up. So 400 plus 75 will give me $475. And that's what she'll make that week. Again, algebraically. So this person does 40 hours a week at X dollars an hour. So that will just be 40 times X. So 40X, that's their regular pay. Last week he worked Y overtime hours at time and a half. Okay. Time and a half means I need to take what he made per hour, which is X, just like the 10 up there, and I need to multiply it by 1.5. I'm just going to put them side by side because that's how you represent multiplication when you have variables. And then I need to figure out, right, so that's like this 1.5x is the same thing as that 15 up there. I multiplied the amount they get per hour times 1.5. The amount they get per hour times 1.5. And then I took that answer and I multiplied it by how many hours they worked. In this one, it's another variable. They worked Y overtime hours. So I'm just going to kind of tag that in on at the end. I'm technically multiplying it. Here's their overtime pay. Here's their regular pay. Up here, we just added them together. And that's all I'm going to do here. 40x plus 1.5, xy. I can't simplify that anymore because my overtime pay expression has a y in it, so they're not like terms. Okay, things are a little interesting after that. On example 6, there's some more things to look at. Jillian worked her 40 regular hours plus 2 overtime hours at the double time rate. Oh, this one's not too bad. Her gross pay was $484. What was her hourly rate? So remember, gross pay means they haven't taken any taxes out yet. And she made $484. They want hourly. They don't want the double rate. Okay? So if she did 40 regular hours and then 2 overtime hours, you have to figure out these 2 overtime hours. What are they going to be equivalent to? What are they the same as? What are they equal to in regular hours? So if it's double, that means each of these overtime hours were double a normal hour. So if I have 2 overtime hours, that's actually 4 regular hours, right? The pay would be the same. So I have 4 regular hour equivalents, right? and then the 40 regular hours. So she did technically 44 regular hours total. That's what she was paid for. So she has the 484, and I need to divide that by 44. How many regular hours she worked. So if you do that out and you find it, she was paid $11 an hour. Okay, the next one's going to be very similar. Alright, so she worked 40 regular hours, 7 overtime hours. What's different here is that it's time and a half instead of double. So to figure out how many overtime hours, or excuse me, how many regular hours that would be equivalent to, I'm going to go 7 times 1.5. That's equivalent to 10.5 regular hours. Okay? So she did 40 regular, and then the equivalent of 10.5 regular. So I'm going to add those together and get 50.5 regular hours. If she made that for her gross pay, we just need to divide. So it's going to be 611.05. You're good.
Sure?
Yeah. Divided by, sorry, someone's coming in to do some laminating. Divided by 50.05. Sorry, 50.5, right? That's how many regular hours she worked. So if you do that out on your calculator, you should hopefully get $12.10 an hour. My only worry with these types of problems is you guys remembering how I converted those overtime hours to regular hours. If you have a question about that, let me know. Okay, Chapter 7 is all algebraically because they love you so much. So last week Saul worked R regular hours and T overtime hours at time and a half. He earned $700. If X represents his hourly rate, express X in terms of R and H. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is what that means. You're going to come up with an expression, an equation here, because I told you how much he earned. And you're going to mess with it. You're going to move things around so that you have X equals some stuff. And the stuff should have an R and an H in it. Okay, so here we go. If he worked R regular hours and T overtime hours at time and a half, and he got $700, I have to take his overtime and convert it to what would be kind of like regular hours. So time and a half is 1.5, so it's 1.5 times T. That is the same step I did up here. 7 overtime hours times 1.5. T overtime hours times 1.5. He also worked R regular hours. If you remember, I added those two things up here. So I'm going to take the R, and I'm going to add to it the 1.5T. That's how many hours he worked. He earned $700. But this is just the number of hours he worked, right? It doesn't equal $700. To make this equal $700, I would need to take the number of hours he worked and multiply it by how much he gets an hour. Multiply it by this X. Okay? This is one piece of information. That's why I have the parentheses around it. I'm supposed to get X by itself. This is X times some stuff. I'm going to divide by that stuff. I'm going to do it to both sides because this is algebra and I have an equal sign there. I need to keep things equal. If I divide one side by some stuff, I'm going to divide the other side by some stuff. These are going to cancel and leave me with just X. This weirdness is your X. That is your answer. That's an R. Okay? And you are good. The next one is not as complicated in my opinion. It's the last one. It says Jonathan worked 8 hours at an hourly rate of R dollars. He also worked W hours for an overtime rate of double time. versus total pay for the week algebraically. Okay, so if he worked H hours and got R dollars an hour, I'll just multiply those, HR, so that's his regular pay. He also worked double hours, so I'm going to have to add that. W hours at an overtime rate of double time. Okay, so that means I need to figure out what his normal rate was, which was R, and double means I just need to multiply it by 2. Okay, as a math teacher, that's bothering me. In math, we normally write things alphabetical order, and your constants, your numbers, first. So I just move that around. In multiplication, I can do that. That's all you need to do. Algebraic weekly pay. Just add the two things together. Alright, so your homework is below. If you have any questions, let me know.